According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, Native Americans are incarcerated at a rate 38% higher than the national average. Native American men are incarcerated 4 times more than white men, and Native American women are incarcerated at 6 times the rate of white women. With such daunting statistics, it's no surprise that many Native American youth feel invisible. Mvskoke Creek citizen Isabel Coronado has overcome the statistics and is now working to change those numbers.
Hey Jay, my name is Isabel Coronado, and since my last interview over Champions for Change launch, I've since graduated with my master's in public health from OSU, and I just started my first job at the Next 100 in New York City. So I just moved from Oklahoma to New York City for this new think tank that's going on here in New York.
Oh, can you tell us a little bit about Next 100? I'm pretty curious about, I've looked at the website, but everybody watching is going to want to know what that's all about.
Okay, so the Next 100 is a startup think tank that was created by the Century Foundation for their 100-year anniversary. And instead of having some party or some other way to celebrate, they decided to throw some money at this new program called the Next 100. And we are technically a think tank, but we're more than just a think tank. Yes, we do policy and research, but we're out there actively trying to get our policy enacted either on the federal side or on the state side.
Okay, that's pretty cool. How did you first get involved? What drew you there to the Next 100?
So I got involved by someone who saw my work and was at a conference and just doing networking, and they said, hey, this really awesome opportunity, you should look into it. And when I was looking into it, it really spoke to me about the language they used, about how they're looking to do progressive change, and by having it be led by people who are personally impacted by the issues. So I thought the next step in what I was already doing was to get into the policy world and make change on that front.
Can you give us some insights into how the policies that you are working with, what your personal avenue is in that? Because you talked a little bit about the Next 100 and how people who have personal stakes in the game in perspective can be impactful. But tell us a little bit about your background for those who might not already have caught our previous coverage.
Yeah, so my background is that I come from I was raised by a single Indigenous mother, and where she was an amazing mother, but there was this big shift when I was 7 years old where she was arrested and sent to prison for a couple years. But during her time, she realized 2 things: that 1, she needs to make education a priority, and 2, she needs to be my role model and really step up. So that's exactly what she did when she was released from prison. She first decided to go to law school, then after served as an attorney for the Creek Reintegration Center.
Awesome.
Yes, that's right.
It's an award-winning program, too. We've seen that program really grow and be recognized for the work that they've done, too.
Yes, amazing work.
Has she ever talked to you about what those minor little things that really shifted her thoughts in the law would have been? Like, did she see instances where she felt like people who were underserved in education or things like that were vulnerable to that pattern?
Yeah, so definitely by the environment where she was living in and the people she was surrounding herself with really influenced the way that she was thinking at the time and the things that she was doing. Mm-hmm. And with her time in prison, she read incredibly a lot because there's not much else to do when you're sitting there and you're so far away from your kid. But I think it was really the turning point is when she was coming out of prison. It's like, what am I going to do now? I can't go back to what I was doing. Obviously, that's not working. And interesting enough, she wanted to become an attorney. This is where she saw the lack and the need for more Indigenous attorneys to step up and serve their communities.
Can you give us some insights? I know that you've been working with this topic for a while, like on just what those statistics might look like for Indigenous people and incarceration. Do you have any good data to share?
Yeah, I definitely do. Always have the data on hand. So first off, I just want to give the bigger picture as Oklahoma overall that Oklahoma surpassed Louisiana in incarcerating more people than anywhere else in the world. And that's because Louisiana enacted policies, whereas Oklahoma, we still are faulting in that area. So that means 1 in every 100 Oklahomans are either in prison or in jail. But for the Native American side, for the Indigenous women, that disparity is really high, where for Native women, it's almost 3 times the rate than any other race that are being incarcerated. Wow. So then that impacts children of incarcerated parents. When the women go away, the children are either go with family members or go into the foster care system. And children of incarcerated parents have a 7 times more likelihood of entering the justice system as well.
Wow, those are some staggering statistics too. Like it's a lot of things working when people are trying to find their launch point in life. Those are a lot of elements working against them. I read a little bit about an article that you wrote in Teen Vogue. Can you tell us about that article?
Yeah, so that was an amazing opportunity through the Centers for Native American Youth. Teen Vogue reached out to them, which had each of their champions for change in 2018 write a piece about what they were working on. And in that article, I really just wanted to encompass my story and how it related to the work I was doing in Oklahoma with the American Indian Criminal Justice Navigation Council, and really get out that program, because we were a new program and not many people knew too much about it. So I was really trying to get more people interested and even know that be aware that that is even what's going on.
Yeah. In that article, you referenced re-entry programs. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the re-entry program I was specifically talking about was the American Indian Criminal Justice Navigation Council, which is a program that was founded by David Littleson, and it was meant to equip ex-offenders with information about the justice system and turn around and help other incarcerated people understand their rights, roles, and responsibilities. And this helped them become active participants in their case, because something that was happening is when we're at this high population, there's not too many people that can sit there and really explain to you what's going on with your case, when DAs are trying to do what they're doing, and public defenders are so just have so much on their caseload. That's where these people would really cover that gap and make sure people were educated.
Mm-hmm. I work covering a lot of legal cases and through journalism, and I sit through court dockets, and you can see that a lot of times people are showing up and they are already in custody, and they've met their lawyer for the first time at a preliminary hearing, and really it's often seems like there's this like sidebar 2-minute discussion on some very important decisions in their lives. And it's really great that there are folks out there working to make sure that, just because somebody is in a position where they've, might have gone to jail, they might be in custody, someone's advocating on their behalf, because this isn't a forever state. It's not like that's the end all be all. There's life after that. And I was wondering if you could kind of give us some insights into what reentry programs might try to do for that citizen who's coming out of incarceration. Like, what are some of those rebuilding steps that people go through? Obviously your mom went through some things, but what's that process like? You were a child at the time, but has she ever spoke to you about the difficulty of overcoming that?
Yes, and it's still impacting her to this day with having a record. But one of the things is housing, how to get back into getting your education, transportation, paying back legal fees, or just fees that you owe back to the courts. There's so much that goes into when a person is coming out of prison and the resources that they need coming out. Something that Reintegration Center does a really good job on is that they built housing centers for Creek people coming out, and they can live there for amount of time. And that's that's a really big need, and finding jobs that will still let you work even with a record is very important. And of course, another thing is getting back your kids. It can be kind of a challenge at sometimes when you're trying to get your kids back, whether from the foster care system or the parenting classes you have to take to gain those rights back.
Okay. And can you give us just like kind of a broad insight into what your next maybe like year is going to look like as you're working for Next 100? Like, what are your first steps and goals?
So my first step in goals is to do the research that in the covering gaps that aren't there, so it can really push forward my policies that I'm trying to get passed. And of course, I'm always trying to brainstorm new ideas and innovative ways that can help move this issue to the forefront and get it solved. I'm not just looking at the federal level, but I am trying to help Oklahoma, my home state, with this issue. So really just educating myself that's the best if I can, and just being using my background as my leading way to make these changes.
Awesome. Well, I think that's about all the questions I've gathered up. Do you have anything you wanted to leave us with? Anything I might have missed?
Yeah. So I know there was I wanted to also mention about if people are following the stories and what kind of message I want to send out to the Creek citizens watching, or just anybody else watching. I just want to say, even policymakers, first off, is don't forget about the indigenous people of Oklahoma. Don't forget about the indigenous people, period, just in the U.S., but also to those people formerly incarcerated. Like, use your voice to speak up to these policy people, and using your stories about the injustices or ways to create solutions to these issues. And then lastly, to the Native youth to vote. That's the easiest way to do policy, especially in our tribal elections coming up, but as well as the presidential election that's happening as well.